I really, really like this video put together by Media Matters. Credit to them for putting this together. This is such an amazing compilation of what Fox News is saying now about peaceful protests, now that there's some riots out there, and what they said previously about peaceful protests. Namely, when Colin Kaepernick peacefully protested about the issue of police brutality. So let's see how quickly they flip when they see, hey, there's actually some people out there who are quite unreasonable in how they want to address this. Colin Kaepernick was reasonable. So let's see you flip your standard in an instant.
Peaceful protests, frankly, in my mind, justifiable, understandable.
Peaceful protest is the hallmark of a free society. We all know that.
And the people that want to peacefully protest, I'm all for it. I'd be out there protesting too.
You did own a professional football team. What would you do with Colin Kaepernick?
I don't think I'm going to tell you what I do.
You don't stand up in the middle of our workplace and start creating chaos because we get fired.
But they're not creating chaos.
That's chaos.
So why is this a big deal? Why is it, in the end, dangerous for this country?
These acts of protest are beyond disrespectful.
He's trying to make a point, but I don't think he's making it the correct way. I think what he's doing is very bad for the spirit of the country.
Just because something is legal doesn't mean you ought to do it.
Colin Kaepernick gives money to terrorists.
Using the excuse of Black Lives Matter or some other issue that they probably haven't even read up on. They just repeat whatever Colin Kaepernick says on any given day.
So look at the people he's donated money to. These are radicals in many cases, very anti-American, ethnocentrically racist black organizations, and again, built on a lie.
It is a myth that police are brutalizing black people at some epidemic rate.
He acts like he's standing up for Black Lives Matter. There was one, I don't know, I've never been able to confirm this. I looked earlier today that he might have converted to Islam in the off-season.
So what are these protests really about? Well, some players claim their core complaint is police brutality, in which case, fine, protest that. Learn the facts, make your case, propose solutions, run for office, try to make the country better. But no, that's too hard. It's easier to follow the demagogues and attack America itself.
But it wasn't an attack on America. If you were willing to listen to what he was saying, it was to bring attention to a problem that needs to be solved. See, and I think this is such a disingenuous argument when people use it on the right or the left. Whenever people try to, categorize criticism as, oh, you just don't like the country. No, because inherent in the criticism is the idea that I would like to make the country better. So if you're trying to make the country better, presumably you like the country enough to try to change it, to try to fix it. It's like, you're a parent and your kid is doing crack behind an Arby's and you criticize and you say, we're going to get you some help and you're not going to do this anymore. Nobody would respond to you and say, well, I guess you don't like your kid then. No, I'm trying to help my kid. I'm trying to help my kid. By the same token, when I peacefully protest, I'm trying to help the country. I'm criticizing because I want to fix it. I forget who said it. It might have been Thomas Jefferson, but dissent is the highest form of patriotism. But since it's such a partisan, convenient, weaselly little shit of an argument to be like, well, the reason why Colin Kaepernick is protesting the American flag is because he doesn't like America, and that's why he's doing it. Are you really intellectually satisfied with that answer? If there are people out there that are intellectually satisfied with that answer, I want to be nice to you, I want to be kind, but in all seriousness, you're just not that smart. Like, you really think that, I'm going to kneel because I hate America. He's trying to improve the country. That's what he's trying to do. That's the whole point. That's the whole point. So, look at the hypocrisy. So now that there's looting, now that there's rioting, and let me be clear, by the way, I'm against looting, I'm against rioting. I think it's counterproductive, and I also think it's immoral. There's a bigger, conversation to be had about ethics and property damage and all that stuff. That's a thing we're not going to get into at the moment. My position on violence is it's only okay for self-defense. But put that aside for a second. Now that there's rioting, now that there's looting, Fox News going, I don't understand, bro. Why are you rioting and looting? You stop the rioting and looting. Why don't you peacefully protest? If you peacefully protest, I totally agree with you, bro. I totally agree with you. You peacefully protest, bro. I'll be out there marching with you, bro. No, you wouldn't, because we have the video from 2 years ago now? How long ago was it? 3 years ago? Where you were like, oh, God, look at this guy. Peacefully protesting, unacceptable. Well, when he peacefully protested, it was unacceptable. When they rioted, it was unacceptable. So what's acceptable? It's almost like you just don't want to talk about the issue. That's the reality of it. You just don't want to talk about the issue because you don't think there is an issue. So they're just such hacks. I'm floored at, even me at this late date, I'm floored at how big of hacks they are. Okay? And what I'll tell everybody is Kaepernick was more right than anybody even realized. Because the way that you really bring about change, and this was proven through academic research, we just covered it on the show the other day. Somebody studied the civil rights movement for 15 years. Here's what they found. You're more likely to get change when you protest peacefully and the cops are violent against you. Now, I know that sounds terrible because it's like, well, what? We have to deal with abuse in the meanwhile while we're trying to get change? And the short answer is, yeah. Because what happens is, you get abused, you're acting peacefully, they look like pieces of garbage, violent maniacs, and then people go, hey, why are the cops being bad guys and being violent? What are those people protesting for? And then they learn about it and they go, I'm sympathetic to what they're doing. Now, one of the reasons why people become sympathetic is because they look at people, it becomes almost like a movie. You have one side that's pure evil, the police being violent as the protesters are peaceful, and you got the protesters being perfectly peaceful. And with Martin Luther King, it was even to the extent of, no, I'm a pacifist. See, I'm not even in total agreement with him, although he is one of my heroes, because I believe in self-defense. Like, if you can defend yourself, I think as a matter of principle, you can do that. But really, honestly, if I'm being objective about it, I'm strategically incorrect, because what Martin Luther King did is, no, I believe in Jesus' philosophy. I'm a pacifist. If you hit me on this cheek, I'll say, here, hit me on this one too. And that made people go, damn, he's definitely right, and they're definitely wrong. So Colin Kaepernick, I think, was even more right than people realized. And history will judge him beyond kindly. He's going to be looked at, I'm telling you, in the same way that Muhammad Ali was looked at. Maybe a little bit different, because Muhammad Ali was literally like one of the best ever, period. I don't know if you could call Colin Kaepernick one of the best quarterbacks ever, although he was probably good, but history will judge him very, very, very kindly. Because this is exactly what he was trying to say. Hey, man, there's a lot of instances of police brutality going on across the country. Until we address this, I got to take a knee. And judging off everything I've heard him say in interviews, it kind of gets to the point I've been making for a long time, which is to go to the Campaign Zero website, read the policy proposals. If they actually made that law, I genuinely believe Colin Kaepernick would stop taking a knee. I really believe that. All of a sudden, body cameras on every police officer, special prosecutors in all instances of police brutality, civilian review boards. We can go on and on with all the Campaign Zero reforms. If you did a bunch of them, he'd stop taking a knee. So he was beyond reasonable. He was totally right. And the final point I'll make is this. This is how you know how full of it they are over at Fox News, okay? And honestly, the right online more generally as well. They loved to claim the mantle of believing in freedom of speech. That was their whole thing. And they invoked it the most when they were dunking on college kids with pink hair who were setting up safe spaces. And they said, hey, listen, you got to listen to dissenting viewpoints. There's the whole idea of becoming a well-rounded person. We need to believe in freedom of speech as a matter of principle. Forget your safe space. You shouldn't hide from things you don't agree with. That's what they were saying. You know what? I agreed with them on that. I think they were right. I think the idea of safe spaces is silly. But they were full of it. They never cared about freedom of speech. They never did. Because what happened with Colin Kaepernick? For those of you who don't remember, Donald Trump put massive pressure on the NFL to do something about what Colin Kaepernick was doing. And so we all know the rest of the story. We all know he was effectively blackballed and out of the NFL. Now, some people claim, it's because he wasn't good enough to be in the NFL. Really? The timing lined up exactly right with when he was protesting and when he was getting a whole bunch of crap for it. And when the president was referencing him in his goddamn speeches, no, we know, of course, they were linked. Those things were linked. So you have the president of the United States putting pressure on a private company to fire somebody for their freedom of speech, their free protest. Now, this is where conservatives go into the whole, whoa, this isn't technically a free speech issue because they're a private company and they can do whatever the hell they want, the NFL. That's what they say, right? Remind me what they say about Twitter now? They say the exact opposite. Oh, I don't care that it's a private company. I think people have the right to freedom of speech. They shouldn't be allowed to crack down on people who, they might disagree with politically. Which is it? Does the NFL have the freedom to decide, hey, I don't like what Kaepernick is saying, so let's get rid of him? We're a private company. We could do that. Or should we protect people with dissenting opinions even in private companies? When it comes to Twitter, you say, hey, protect the people with dissenting opinions. When it comes to the NFL, no, don't protect them. Let the owners do what they want. Rank hypocrites. And Fox News didn't even, it's one thing to defend Colin Kaepernick on the substance of what he's saying. It's a totally separate thing to say, you know what? I don't agree with the guy, but I do believe in freedom of speech. He shouldn't lose his job because he's speaking up on a social issue that's important to him. Nobody even said that. They are charlatan frauds on that network. Don't ever take a word they say seriously. They keep telling you who they are over and over. Believe them.